feels like the temperature dropped a lot today. There wasn't any, quote, heat wave, from my experience anyways, in this area. And what's going on today? How about this one, where apparently a drone pilot's going to be going to court because, allegedly, I guess, he put this helicopter in danger. This one says, trial date for a drone pilot arrested at Northwich road race. A drone pilot accused of endangering a police helicopter in flight while he tried to film an illegal car race in Northwich will stand trial before a judge and jury. Amar Singh faces 2 charges: recklessly acting in a manner likely to endanger an aircraft and recklessly causing an aircraft, his own drone, to endanger a person or property. The 24-year-old first appeared at Warrington Magistrates Court on Tuesday, January 31st, when he entered no plea to the charges. Prosecuting Alan Currams told the court the police helicopter crew was called into action on Sunday, December 5th, 2021, to help officers trying to break up an organized illegal road race around Northwich, Knutsford, and Wilmslow. That in itself is actually fascinating to think about, because to charge him, for example, saying recklessly causing an aircraft, his own drone, to endanger a person and all that, would you consider that to be true for, let's just say, the helicopter flying around as well? I asked that before. Why is it all of a sudden so safe, for example, for a huge helicopter or manned aircraft like that to fly around people, but yet a smaller drone per se is treated as if you're using a bomb or something like that? To me, it's about consistency. And it goes on to say, he explained while hovering over Northwich, the police's civilian helicopter pilots spotted a drone flying close to their aircraft at around 150 meters high, 30 meters above the height a drone can fly legally. The helicopter crew were able to identify the drone pilot from the air and informed the officers on the ground what was happening. And according to this, he landed the drone, I guess, before they were able to get to him, but eventually he was arrested. And it says, Mr. Currams explained to the magistrates if Sin were tried and found guilty before them, the minimal penalty for these offenses would be within their sentencing powers. And this is the interesting part. This stuff is still fairly new, I guess you could say, in terms of interpretations of the law, how dangerous was the guy and all that, I would imagine, in terms of you trying to conclude what the guy's punishment should be, if any. It says, however, as no sentencing guidelines for magistrates exist in relation to these offenses, he recommended the case be allocated to the Crown Court. Defending Masood Hussain agreed, stating this was a very new area of law and that there is very little case law to guide any decision. He added Sin would be engaging a flight path expert as an expert witness and that he consulted a specialist aviation barrister and agreed this matter should be dealt with by the Crown Court. So this will be really interesting actually to see how it turns out. And with that thought again, in terms of consistency, do you think that's a little weird where the drone operator, for some reason, he's completely dangerous in this situation, whereas again, I guess the helicopter's okay, like a huge one above people and all that, and they don't really say whether or not the helicopter was actually in, quote, serious danger and all, because they say he flew 150 meters. How far was he actually away from the helicopter itself? Was this a case of someone saying, I see a drone, it's, quote, against the law, so there, you should punish him? Or again, was there actually any true danger? I'd be curious about that. But again, just a great example of there's no consistency actually when I think about it in terms of danger, things in airspace. You would think something huge would be more, quote, dangerous, but I guess to us, we're like, okay, that's okay. And this was kind of an interesting read, as apparently there's some kind of situation where pilots are just collapsing for whatever reason, and some even passing away. This one here says an IndiGo pilot collapsed at a boarding gate at Nagpur airport on Thursday shortly before he was to operate a flight and died while being taken to hospital, officials familiar with the matter said. The pilot, identified as Captain Manish Subramanian, 40, was to operate the Nagpur-Pune 6E-135 flight around 1 p.m., but he collapsed around 12:05 p.m. As per preliminary reports, the pilot died due to sudden cardiac arrest, said KIMS Kingsway Hospital spokesperson H. Sami. Was it, for example, someone being overworked and a lack of sleep? According to this anyways, it says he had 27 hours of rest and was to operate 4 sectors today, including the Nagpur-Pune sector, which would have been his first for the day. So who knows what's going on? And as they say here, the incident comes a day after a senior Qatar Airways pilot died of cardiac arrest while he was flying as a passenger on a Delhi-Doha flight. He had earlier worked with a SpiceJet and Alliance Air. So who knows what's going on, but I have been reading more news of this where pilots are just for whatever reason just passing out and so forth. And then I was hearing about this story, which actually dealt with a local here, but it affects a lot of people worldwide just because the channel is so big. It dealt with a channel called Linus Tech Tips, which from what I remember, this guy actually started with a local computer company here called NCIX before, and they made as well, I guess to supplement their retail business, these videos to teach people about computer hardware and all that. The company has since folded and he actually ventured out on his own, and now he has this Linus Tech Tips review channel where they review things, for example, like computer parts and all that, and they're like a multi-million-dollar corporation. But recently, they commented about other, I guess, product reviewers, hardware reviewers, saying why they are better than them, and one of them was this channel called Gamers Nexus.
The difference between us and somebody like Gamers Nexus or Hardware Unboxed is we test new components, new tests every time. Every project that we do has new data.
And as you would imagine, I guess they responded to them, like Gamers Nexus, where they ended up criticizing the Linus Tech Tips, showing all these examples of how a lot of their reviews, they have faulty information, all that. And one in particular that seemed to generate a lot of the controversy is they were showing this part on how apparently the Linus Tech Tips took this prototype from a company which is supposed to be something that cools down the GPU, and instead of returning it, they actually auctioned it off for money for charity or something like that. That was the accusation anyways. So there's a lot of details about that, but ultimately the company responded by saying they did this and that, and as well they were trying to, I guess, discredit in some ways, like the Gamers Nexus, saying it's unprofessional, they could have just contacted them and all that as opposed to just creating that video. And because of this, there's a huge, I guess, storm now where everyone is just coming out saying, oh, this company is unethical and so forth. One of the predominant topics that seems to be coming up as a result of this is how ex-employees were saying how demanding it was in terms of how much content they had to put out for the job, and when they were, let's just say, tired or couldn't really do it, had to phone in sick and all that, they would be belittled and one of those suck it up buttercups, that type of attitude. And there must be some truth to it in terms of, I guess, the pressure to pump out a lot of content, because just recently that channel mentioned that they're going to cease, I guess, productions of new content until they can sort things out just based on what's happening so far. So it seemed to generate a lot of interesting topics. For example, one is how a lot of people say this guy's no longer, quote, one of us because he's now a multi-million-dollar corporation, so you can't consider him as, let's just say, your down-to-earth buddy anymore. Others are saying, for example, oh, they saw it all along. This guy's like this and that, like he's a horrible person, in which he kind of replied that's initially why he responded to, I guess, a lot of the comments, because of the fact that you get all this negative criticism, which I guess he alleges isn't true. They felt the need to say something. So it makes you wonder in this case, who do you believe is right or wrong? At the same time, on the other end, some people are saying the Gamers Nexus person is just taking advantage of the situation, where by doing so, he can generate, I guess, more clout as well. I don't know personally. I've seen it go both ways in these types of situations where one, it was, let's just say, quote, the company abusing and taking advantage of people, and the other end, it was people, for example, just trying to generate controversy to take advantage of, I guess, that company in a way. So I don't know ultimately, but it's kind of an interesting story. Wouldn't you agree with that notion too, where regardless of who you are or the company, how it started, when you get to that level of success and money, you're eventually going to get, I guess, quote, corrupted, either through one being, I guess, too greedy, power hungry, or it eventually gets taken over by someone without the original intentions of your mission, if that makes sense. Alright, see you guys later.